Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Bonsai's Forever. This is Jay. I have another video today for you. Kind of on a tiny bonsai kick right now because I just got some really tiny bonsai pots. So the last video you saw, I did the tiny little leafed trees. Now I'm going to do something in these unglazed pots. I'm not sure which pot I'm going to use yet. I really like this one. Well, I really like them all, but I kind of want to try and see if I can fit a tree into this pot. But we'll look at the four of the pots that I've got to see which one works best for this tree. So I'm going to bring you in closer and let's see what we got. I have a couple of trees that I started here in this tray. I've got, if I can remember what they are, pretty sure this is a chinensis of some sort. This one's not quite ready. It's got a couple of pieces that are new growth, so it is starting to grow roots, but it's not ready yet. This one is not ready yet. I actually pulled this one out to look at it before I started the video. It's got a tiny little root on it. Put it back in so that it can keep growing. And then this one I think is a percummins. It's a tiny little cutting over percummins. It's that big, but it's got a really small trunk to it. And I've got another tiny little one right here that isn't ready yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this tree right here. Yeah, and I think that this one is a, I'm trying to remember what this says. I'm pretty sure this is a chinensis as well. I think these three cuttings came off of the same tree, and they've been in the sand for the same amount of time. So, okay, so I'm gonna get started with this. I'm gonna pull this guy out of sand, and it is dry sand because I pulled it out earlier to look at it, and I wanted to put it back in the sand so that it would not dry out. So you can see it's got a pretty good amount of roots. So I'm gonna clean those off of the sand, and then later on I can put another tree in that spot there. So I'm gonna try and put it in this pot here. I think that'll be a big enough pot for this tree. I'm gonna have to cut some of these roots back just a little bit, I think, to fit it in here. Let's see if I can just jam them in there. Actually, yeah, that looks really good. So I'm gonna make this the planing angle of it. So I'm going to wire this tree so that it can have some structure to it right away. I've seen this done by a few other bonsai artists where they do all the bending before they put it in the pot, and that works out really well, especially with a tiny little tree, and not even just a tiny tree, like a smaller start of a bonsai tree. It works really well with too. I don't have the right size wire over here. The right size wire in here. I don't need giant wire. Maybe I do have the right size wire over here. I'll try this size wire. I don't know what size wire it is. I get electrical wire and I strip it and anneal it. So that's what this is. So I'm going to take a length of wire here. Over there. So I'm going to take the wire. I'm going to put it at the base of the roots here. I want to keep this root, so I'm going to twist it back this way. Now I'm going to cut this root off. Not the whole thing, I'm just going to cut it back to where it has some feeder roots on it, because most of that isn't any good at the end of here. It's just a long root. That's what you get when you have your trees in like compost or potting soil or nursery soil, whatever you want to call that, and rather than bonsai soil. But I do want to keep that root because it's a good root, and eventually we'll thin this out and make it better root base for this tree. So I'm hoping that these roots back here will continue to get thicker and grow. So anyway, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it at the base of the root ball right here. I'm going to wrap it around the trunk of the tree. I'm going to hold the wire and make sure that I'm bending the wire around the tree and not bending the tree with the wire. I hope that makes sense. I don't want to damage the bark of the tree, because if I damage this bark, the whole tree dies. So it's kind of a delicate process with something so small. It's the same process you would use on a smaller branch on a larger bonsai tree. Just basically make sure you're holding the wire really nice and firm as you're bending it. And don't use the tree to bend the wire, use your fingers to bend the wire around the tree. And once I've got it up here, I don't have to hold this anymore. I can just, I would hold it closer to where I'm bending the wire. I don't want to smash the branches on the tree to, like, don't want to smash the branches to the tree. So, this wire might have been a little bit thick. It's okay. It'll definitely work. Just, it's a little bit more of a process to get it on here gently. Okay, so I just want to go out to where I need the structural wire, because this is going to be a structural wire. If I can hang on to the tools, that'd be great too, right? So cut it off. I'm going to cut it off right here. Alright, now that's the structural wire here. I'm not going to wire the secondary branches. I'm just going to wire the trunk right this minute. But I am going to put it in the pot, figure out the planing angle again. Because we're going to plane it kind of like this, at this kind of an angle. Then I'm going to bend the tree back that way. Kind of like that. So that's going to give it a good start on a bend here, and that bend will stay even after the tree is bigger and healed. Or yeah, once it's bigger, this bend will stay in the tree. So there we go, just like that. Alright, looks like a little bonsai tree. Alright, so I'm going to put a little bit of bonsai soil in the bottom of this. That, I think I'm going to use the sand again, or the gravel like I did in the last one. I'm trying to bend this root underneath everything so it doesn't stick out. There we go. Trying to get all the roots in the pot is the hardest part of this process. They're like little snakes trying to get out. Alright, I think I am going to use this bonsai soil in here. I don't have a way of securing this into the pot other than the soil. So this tree, I'm going to have to make sure and keep it in a very, very secure location. And get some of this larger pieces out. I think I mixed in too much lava rock. This last time I made the soil. It works for other trees, just not the tiny ones. Alright, I'm gonna use this piece of wire as a chopstick to get the soil in there. Okay, so this soil is definitely going to be too big. I am going to get some of the sand. Got my sand over here. And I'm just going to pour this on top of the bonsai soil and mix it in. So this, the smaller stuff will fill in all the really large gaps in here. We'll just keep adding until the sand is on top. I notice I'm holding the tree in place while I'm doing this, so I'm not knocking the tree out of the pot. These larger pieces don't want to stay in the pot. It's possible we might actually just replace the bonsai soil with sand by adding more sand and more sand. Alright, so there's that. I think that's going to do. I think that'll hold it in there. I'm going to kind of wiggle it in and kind of push the bonsai soil down in there too. Alright, so that looks pretty good. I think that looks good enough for the soil in there. It's in there tight enough. I'm going to knock the very top layer off. There we go, just like that. I think that looks pretty good. And now I want to make sure that this is bent down as much as I wanted it bent down. So I'm going to bend it a little bit more. There we go. And I know it's kind of straight across right this minute. I don't know if I want that straight across. I think I want that pointed down just a little bit. So I'm going to bend it a little bit more. There we go. Just like that. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to leave this for now. I want the trunk to thicken up a little bit, so I'm going to leave the end of the branch for now. In a couple of weeks, once I see some bright green tips all over it, I'll know that it's growing roots, like more roots and actually starting to grow, and then I'll start cutting stuff back. And I'll do a video on that. I'll show you what I mean by the bright green tips and all that, if you don't know what that looks like already. Alright, so I'm going to empty this out. And let's give it some water. Oh, I always have my watering hose wrapped around the camera. Sorry about knocking you around, man. There we go. Water it down really good. And I'm watching to see the water is like pooling up on the top. You can see it pooling, and then you can see it draining in. So that means that that's got enough drainage for this tree to do well. I just want to make sure it's watered in really good, so I'm going to water it a couple of times. This is really exciting. I didn't know that doing these tiny bonsais would be as much fun as they are. This is awesome. Because that really looks like a tiny little bonsai tree already. I'm thinking I might take this part and bend it back up. Now that I'm looking at that, I might do that and make it a taller tree instead of a shorter tree. I don't know. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see what that looks like. I'm gonna get a smaller piece of wire. I'm gonna bend this back up. It's not necessarily a good idea to bend your trees down and up and down and up and down and up, but if you do it once or twice, it's not gonna hurt too bad. You might just have to take more care in the aftercare after you've bent the tree. So I think I'm gonna run this almost the whole way up the tree. I'm gonna go around where the curve of the trunk is here, where the first bend is. I'm gonna follow the other piece of wire without damaging any of the branches. This is why you wire it before you pot it. But if you make another decision, don't be afraid to act on it. That's what makes bonsai so much fun, right? Got this wire a little bit, it's got too much space in between each gap, and it's starting to touch the branch, and I don't want it to touch the secondary branches because that kills the secondary branch. I want to make sure and keep it on the actual trunk of the tree. But when you're wiring a secondary branch, you don't want the wire messing with the tertiary branches. Wiring is much more difficult with these little branches. Oh, come on. It's hard to hold it without pinching it too hard. Okay, so I'm gonna go to there. That's it. Just like that. Alright, so cut the soil back down over the roots. Just move the tree a little bit. Okay, so that's what we got so far here. That out of the way so this branch can grow. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend it back this way some more. Alright, I'm going to take this really heavy piece of wire off right here. Cut it off right there so I can bend this back this direction. I'm going to kind of bend it back over this direction. So it has some shape to it. Now, when you're bending the wire, or bending the branch, or the trunk of the tree, kind of look at the branches and bend it in a way that would orient the secondary branches to be in a positive direction for later styling. Because like these ones, this one's kind of going off in that direction. If I bend the trunk here back this way a little bit, right there, where it kind of flattens that branch out a little bit more. Now these branches are going outwards, and it's more of a positive direction. And I can take some of this off later when I decide what I want to hang on to. And then I can orient these branches, like this branch here, orient that branch, and then I can bend the rest of the trunk up out of the way. Like that. See how this branch is now going outwards a little bit? And these branches are going outwards. There we go, kind of like that. Sometimes you can't do that as well as you might like to, just because of where the branches lie on the tree. You can kind of do that the whole way up this tree. Give each branch it's where it's sticking out rather than being all bunched up. Like these ones are kind of bunched up, which is okay. They'll either flatten out, or we'll wire those out later when they're big enough to wire. Because yeah, we can't wire these out right now. They're too small. They'll break off, just like that one did. All right, so I think I like that better. Yeah, I really like that. That looks awesome. I'll make sure the tree is in the pot nice and tight still. It's a lot harder to tamp it in or chopstick it in when it has wet soil. So let's go ahead and water it one more time to make sure the soil is settled properly. Now, once we've planted a broadleaf or an evergreen like this, we are going to want to moisten or spray the foliage of the tree to keep that moist as it's growing. We don't want it dripping wet all the time, just maybe once or twice a day if it's really hot. If it's not really hot, then we don't want to worry about that. We just want to make sure that the soil, why do I keep saying soil? Maybe it's because I'm going to say something else with an S afterwards. I don't know. So we want to make sure that the soil stays its proper moisture level so that the tree can continue to grow. Knock some of the water off the branch. There we go. So that's going to do it for this tree for today. We will work on this again, and I'll make sure it stays alive so we can work on it again. I don't want to make a video and then kill the tree, because I've actually been growing this cutting for a couple of months now. They take a little bit longer during the wintertime to root than when it's summertime and hot. So yeah, that's going to do it for this. Alright, so thanks for watching. Juniper tiny bonsai. Have a great day.